Okay, so imagine this. You're driving down the highway, windows down, and you hear this car next to you just scream. Like not a normal car sound, a full-on, high-pitched, almost sci-fi wail. And you look over and it's this low, wide thing hugging the road like it was born there.
Okay, I'm listening.
And the thing is, that sound, that specific personality, comes entirely from what's sitting under the hood, the engine. And not just any engine, the layout of the engine, where the cylinders sit, how they fire, how they breathe.
Wait, so like the shape of the engine changes how it sounds and feels?
Completely. Like a BMW straight 6 sounds nothing like a Porsche flat 6, which sounds nothing like a Mazda Rotary, which sounds nothing like a Dodge Viper B10. And they're all making power, just in totally different ways, with totally different personalities.
So engines have personalities now? I love that for them.
They absolutely do. And today, we're going to meet all of them.
Oh, this is going to be a good one.
Hey there, and welcome back to Solo Filler. I'm John,
And I'm Lily.
the show where we break down a bunch of stuff in a podcast-style way so you actually walk away understanding it, not just nodding along pretending you do.
Yeah, we're basically your two friends who did the homework and are now explaining it to you the night before the test.
Yeah, kind of. In today's episode, we're going deep on every major type of car engine layout, from the tiny, scrappy little inline 3 all the way up to the absolutely unhinged W16 that Bugatti stuffed into the Chiron.
That last one sounds illegal, honestly.
It probably should be. But before we get into all of that, if you're enjoying this show, please hit that like button and share this with a friend who's into cars or is just curious, or honestly just needs something to listen to while they do dishes. Either way, the guy running this channel would really appreciate it.
Yeah, please do it. I want to be paid this month. That'd be great.
All right, with that out of the way and Lily's salary secured,
Allegedly.
let's get into it. Okay, so before we start throwing around words like V8 and flat 6 and rotary, we need to start at the foundation. And the foundation of basically all modern engines is something called the inline layout.
So like cylinders in a straight line?
Exactly. Cylinders, those are the chambers where fuel burns and makes power, lined up in a single row, one crankshaft underneath them all. Simple, clean, easy to understand.
Got it. So like the starter pack of engine design.
Yeah, basically. Now, within that family, we've got a few different versions, and we're starting with the smallest, the inline 3. So, the inline 3 cylinders, straight line, usually tucked into the tiniest little cars you can think of, your city hatchbacks, small front-wheel drive stuff.
3 cylinders. So like the budget option?
I mean, kind of, yeah. But here's the thing, don't sleep on it. The whole point of the inline 3 was that engineers needed something between a 2-cylinder, which is basically a lawnmower, and a full inline 4, which we'll get to in a second.
Okay, so like the Goldilocks problem. 2 is too little, 4 is too much.
And 3 is just right. For small cars, yeah, you save weight, you save space, you save money on production. One less piston, one less rod, one less set of valves.
Huh, so it's actually kind of smart.
Very smart. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. Because 3 cylinders sounds simple, but the firing order, how each piston takes its turn making power, leaves this natural rocking motion, like end to end the engine wants to wobble.
So it's got a little shimmy to it.
A little shimmy, yeah. Some manufacturers throw in what's called a balance shaft to smooth it out, but even then, at higher revs, it can feel a bit buzzy.
So it's that one kid in class who's really efficient and gets the work done, but kind of vibrates with anxiety the whole time?
That is genuinely the most accurate description I've heard. But here's where I'll defend the inline 3, because Ford took this layout and just went stupid with it. Their 1.0-liter EcoBoost 3-cylinder won Engine of the Year multiple times.
Wait, a 1-liter engine? That's like a big water bottle.
1 liter of displacement, and it punches way above its weight because they slapped a turbo on it, which is basically strapping a forced air pump to the engine to make it breathe harder and make more power than it has any right to.
So it's the might guy of engines. Small, no natural talent on paper, but through sheer will and turbo power.
It shows up and wins anyway. Yeah. And then BMW put a turbocharged inline 3 in the i8, a supercar. So clearly this little engine had something to prove.
Holy crap, the i8 ran a 3-cylinder?
1.5 liters, turbocharged, making over 230 horsepower from 3 cylinders, combined with an electric motor, but still.
Okay, I respect the hustle. I fully respect the hustle.
And the fun fact, engineers sometimes describe the inline 3 as basically half an inline 6. Same crank spacing, just with 3 cylinders removed.
So it's like getting half a pizza and being told it's the same thing.
Well, the proportions are the same, yeah. The personality's just a bit rougher around the edges. But that's the inline 3. Compact, efficient, surprisingly capable, and just a little bit buzzy. The scrappy underdog of the engine world.
I kind of love it, actually. It's got that underdog energy.
All right, so now that we've met the little sibling, let's talk about the engine that basically runs the world.
Oh, that's a bold statement.
Bold but accurate, because if you've ever driven a car, like any car, pretty much ever, there's a very good chance it had one of these under the hood.
Okay, now I'm curious.
The inline 5. 4 cylinders, straight line. Same basic idea as the 3, just with one more cylinder added, and suddenly you've got the most common engine layout on the planet.
So this is like the Honda Civic of engine layouts. Everywhere, reliable, nobody's upset about it.
That's actually perfect, because the Honda Civic literally uses one, and so does the Toyota Corolla, and the Mazda MX-5 Miata, and the VW Golf GTI, and the Golf R, and the Mercedes-AMG A45. The list just keeps going.
So basically, if you've ever sat in a car, you've probably been powered by one of these.
Almost certainly. And there's a reason for that. It hits this perfect sweet spot of simple enough to build cheaply and powerful enough to actually be useful. One cylinder head, one block, fits transversely, meaning sideways, in small front-wheel drive cars, which is most cars on the road.
So it's the all-rounder, the jack-of-all-trades guy.
Exactly. And the range on this thing is wild. You've got tiny 1.2-liter economy 4s that barely sip fuel, all the way up to 2.0-liter turbo monsters making 400-plus horsepower.
Wait, 400 horsepower from a 4-cylinder?
Mercedes-AMG built a 2.0-liter inline 4 turbo that's one of the most powerful production 4 cylinders per liter ever made. They call it the M139.
That's honestly unhinged. Like, that's the same displacement as a mid-sized sedan engine, but making sports car power.
Welcome to what a turbocharger does to an engine's ambitions.
So it's like giving a regular dude pre-workout, and suddenly he's lifting twice his body weight.
Basically, yeah. Now, the inline 4 isn't perfect. It does have some inherent vibration because of how the pistons move. 2 go up while 2 go down, and there are these secondary forces that create a little shake. Engineers fix it with balance shafts or just really good engine mounts, but it means the inline 4 at its base level isn't as silky smooth as some of the bigger layouts we'll talk about later.
So it's refined, but not like luxury refined.
Right. It's competent, not glamorous. And in performance trims, it can sound a bit flat or coarse compared to a 6 or 8 cylinder, but when it's tuned well, when it's revving high, it can have this sharp, eager rasp that actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I've heard some 4-cylinder engines that sound genuinely sick. Like a Civic Type R on track is not a boring noise.
Not at all. And this is where the legendary engines come in. Honda's VTEC K-Series and B-Series are iconic. Toyota had the 4AGE that powered the AE86, yeah, the initial D car.
Oh, that 4-cylinder. Yeah, okay, we can't talk trash about that one. Tofu delivery legend.
And then Mitsubishi's 4G63 Turbo. That thing powered the Lancer Evolution through multiple generations of rally racing and became one of the most tuned engines ever.
So the inline 4 is basically that one character that starts out looking average, but by the end of the arc, they're carrying the whole team.
That's exactly what it is. Dependable, versatile, tunable, and absolutely everywhere. The backbone of the entire car industry for a century.
Respect. Genuine respect.
And honestly, it's not going anywhere. Even as cars go hybrid and electric, most hybrid systems are still pairing their electric motors with an inline 4 because it's cheap, proven, and fits in everything.
It's the duct tape of the car world. Just works.
It really is. All right, so that's our first chapter done. The inline 3, the scrappy underdog, the inline 4, the world's workhorse. Two very different personalities, same basic DNA.
I feel like if they were in a friend group, the inline 3 would be the one hyping everyone up with a lot of energy, and the inline 4 would just be quietly getting everything done in the background.
That's actually spot on. Anyways, so now that we've covered the foundation, the inline 3 and the inline 4, the small guys, the everyday heroes. But now we're stepping into slightly more exotic territory.
Oh, we're going up the food chain now.
We are, because the next two inline engines are where things start getting genuinely interesting. Like one of them is so rare and so specific that only a handful of brands ever committed to it, and it became an absolute icon because of it.
Okay, that's got my attention. Which one are we starting with?
The inline 5.
The 5? So like 5 cylinders in a row?
5 cylinders, one straight line. One of the most distinctive, most characterful, most underrated engine layouts ever made.
I feel like this is the engine equivalent of that one mid-tier anime character who everybody sleeps on but actually goes absolutely crazy when they get their moment.
You know what? That's exactly what it is. Let's get into it. So the inline 5 cylinders, straight line, single crack shaft. On paper, it sounds like somebody just couldn't make up their mind between a 4 and a 6.
Right? Like, why not just pick one?
And that's the thing. There's actually a really specific reason it exists. Back in the 1970s, Audi was trying to solve a packaging problem. They wanted more power and refinement than a 4-cylinder could give them, but a full inline 6 was too long to fit in their cars the way they needed it to.
So they just went, what if we put 5 in there and called it a day?
Essentially, yeah. And the genius part is that compared to a V6, which is another way to get 6-cylinder power in a smaller space, an inline 5 only needs 1 cylinder head. One head, simpler to build, cheaper to manufacture, and it fit their existing platform perfectly.
Okay, so it's not just a weird flex. There's actual logic behind it.
There's real engineering logic, yeah. But here's the thing that makes the inline 5 truly special. It's the sound.
Oh, we're talking about the sound now. Go on.
So in a normal 4-cylinder, the crank pins are spaced 180 degrees apart, nice and even, smooth firing order. In a 6, they're 120 degrees apart, also very even. But in a 5, the crank pins are spaced 72 degrees apart, which creates this slightly uneven, offbeat firing rhythm.
So it's like a drummer who's technically good but plays with this weird swing that makes it actually more interesting than a perfectly on-beat drummer?
That is a genuinely perfect analogy. It creates this warbling, burbling, almost lumpy exhaust note that sits somewhere between a 4 and a 6, and it's unlike anything else on the road.
I feel like I need to hear this engine just to understand what you mean.
If you've ever heard an Audi RS3 or an Audi TT RS pull away, that sound is the inline 5. It's got this odd, almost tribal rhythm to it, very distinctive.
Okay, now I need an Audi. Thanks, John.
Well, Audi basically built their whole performance identity around this engine. The original Quattro, the one that defined all-wheel drive rally cars in the early 80s, ran a turbocharged inline 5.
Wait, the Group B Quattro? The rally car that was basically a missile with wheels?
The very same. Turbocharged, inline 5, all-wheel drive. And it absolutely dominated the World Rally Championship. Audi won multiple titles with that combination.
Holy crap, so this weird little 5-cylinder engine was out there winning rally championships while everyone else was still figuring things out?
At a time when Group B had basically no rules, these cars were making insane power, and the inline 5 was right in the middle of it all. That's the legacy.
Okay, I fully take back everything I said about it being an indecisive engine. This thing has history.
It absolutely does. And Volvo also jumped on the inline 5 train. Their 850 T5R and later performance models ran turbocharged 5 cylinders that became famous for being incredibly durable and surprisingly tunable.
Volvo, the "your dad drives it for safety" brand, had a performance inline 5?
The 850 T5R was a proper sleeper. Looked like a family wagon, went like a rocket.
That's honestly the most Volvo thing I've ever heard, and I love it.
Now, the downside, and there are some, the inline 5 is still longer than a 4, which limits where you can put it in smaller cars. It's not perfectly balanced either, so some designs need balance shafts or mounts to keep the vibration under control. And because it's a niche layout, parts and tooling are more expensive. You can't share as much with other families.
So it's the exotic choice. Great if you commit to it, pricey if you don't.
Exactly. And that's why it's basically faded out today. Most manufacturers have standardized around modular 3, 4, and 6-cylinder families where they share as many parts as possible. The inline 5 just doesn't fit neatly into that system.
So it's getting phased out because the car industry decided to be boring and efficient.
Pretty much. Audi still makes a turbocharged inline 5 for the RS3 and TT-RS, keeping the legend alive. But it's one of the last standing.
Good. Long may it rain. The inline 5 deserves its flowers.
It really does. Charismatic, characterful, historically important, and genuinely unique. That's the inline 5, the odd one out in the best possible way.
The 5-cylinder is the Vash the Stampede of engines. Weird, a little chaotic, but somehow legendary.
I'll take that. All right, now we move to the one that a lot of people consider the holy grail of engine layouts,
Oh, here we go.
the inline 6.
Dun dun dun.
So we've gone from 3 to 4 to 5, and each step up, we've been adding refinement, more character, more personality. But the inline 6 is where the inline family reaches its absolute peak.
Bold claim. Explain yourself.
Gladly. Okay, so the inline 6. 6 cylinders in a straight line, and unlike every other engine we've talked about so far, the inline 6 has something genuinely special going for it from a pure engineering standpoint.
Which is?
It is, mathematically, perfectly balanced.
Wait, perfectly? Like actually perfectly?
Like textbook perfectly. Engineers actually use the inline 6 as the example in classrooms when teaching engine dynamics. Because of the way the 6 cylinders are arranged, crank pins spaced 120 degrees apart, the forces from opposing pistons cancel each other out completely. Primary forces, secondary forces, everything. It just cancels.
So it's the engine equivalent of those noise-canceling headphones, but for vibration.
That's exactly what it is. And what that means in the real world is you get an engine that runs with this incredibly silky, smooth feeling. Barely any vibration, just this rising, almost musical power delivery.
So it feels premium just by existing.
Just by existing, yeah. And the sound of a good inline 6 is something else. It's not loud and aggressive like a V8, it's more like a refined howl, this silky rising note that builds and builds as you rev it.
So it's not the guy who shows up to the party and immediately starts yelling, it's the guy who walks in quietly and everyone just turns to look.
Perfect, that's the inline 6. And nobody has committed to this layout more than BMW.
Oh yeah, BMW and the straight 6, that's basically their whole identity.
It really is. BMW has been building inline 6 engines for decades and basically built their brand around the smoothness and character of this layout. Their M20, M50, M52, S54, all legendary inline 6s across different eras. And their current B58, probably one of the best engines made today.
The B58 goes in everything, right? Like the Supra, the Z4, the M340i?
GR Supra, BMW Z4, 340i, 540i, X5. Toyota even uses it in the GR Supra, which is basically a BMW engine wearing a Toyota jersey.
Toyota said, we'll take that straight 6, thank you very much.
And on the Japanese side, this is where the culture really goes deep. Toyota's ToJZ GTE, the engine from the A80 Supra. Twin turbocharged inline 6, famously overbuilt from the factory and probably the most tuned engine in all of car culture.
The 2JZ. Yeah, we had to get there eventually. That engine is basically a religion at this point.
People have taken 2JZs and pushed them to over 1,000 horsepower on the stock block. The internals just hold together because Toyota built them so conservatively from the factory.
So Toyota accidentally made a legend because they were just being really careful and over-engineered it.
Basically. And then Nissan came with the RB26 DETT, twin-turbo inline 6 from the Skyline GTR, also a legend, also massively tunable, also beloved by basically everyone who's ever played Gran Turismo or Initial D.
Oh, the RB26. Yeah, that's in every Japanese car game ever made. It's like the final boss engine of JDM culture.
Along with the 2JZ, yeah. These two inline 6s basically defined Japanese performance tuning culture in the 90s and 2000s.
And they're still talked about now, like decades later. That's legacy right there.
That's legacy. Now, the inline 6 does have its trade-offs. Because all 6 cylinders are in a line, it's a long engine. That makes it really difficult to mount transversely, sideways, in a car, which is how most front-wheel drive cars work. So the inline-6 typically lives in rear-wheel drive cars where the engine sits longitudinally, front to back.
So it's naturally a rear-wheel drive engine because of its size.
Pretty much, which is part of why BMW loves it so much. Their cars are mostly rear-wheel drive. It's a perfect match. But it also means you won't find inline-6s in your typical front-wheel drive family hatchbacks.
Makes sense. It's too long to be practical for the everyday stuff, so it naturally ends up in the more premium, more performance-oriented cars.
Exactly. It's a layout that found its home in luxury and performance, and that's exactly where it thrives. And interestingly, after a period where a lot of brands switched to V6s to save space, some, like Mercedes-Benz, are actually coming back to inline-6 designs because modern manufacturing and modular engine families make it more practical again.
So the inline-6 went away for a bit, saw everyone else struggling, and just came back like, yeah, I told you.
Like a main character returning from a training arc.
Exactly. Buffed, ready.
The inline-6 is the standard of excellence for engine refinement. Smooth, characterful, historically important, and still very much alive in the cars that care most about the driving experience.
So to recap the inline family before we move on, inline 3 is the scrappy underdog, inline 4 is the reliable workhorse, inline 5 is the charismatic oddball, and inline 6 is the refined legend.
That is the perfect summary. 4 siblings, very different personalities, all sharing the same basic DNA of cylinders in a line.
I love a good family arc.
All right, so we've officially graduated from the inline family. We've met all 4 of them, we respect them, we appreciate them,
Poured one out for the inline 5 specifically.
and now we're moving into a completely different neighborhood. Because up until now, all the engines we've talked about have had their cylinders in one straight line. Simple, clean, organized.
Very Type A energy.
Very Type A. But now we're talking about engines that split their cylinders into 2 banks. 2 rows of cylinders angled toward each other, forming a shape that looks from the front like the letter V.
Oh, so that's literally why they're called V engines.
That's literally why. And the V layout solved a very specific problem. If you want more cylinders, more power, more displacement, but you don't want the engine to be incredibly long, you stack some of those cylinders sideways and angle them toward each other instead.
So instead of making the engine longer, you make it wider but shorter, like trade length for width.
Exactly. And depending on how many cylinders you have and what angle the V is set at, you get very different personalities. So let's start with the one that bridges the gap between the inline world and the big power world.
The V6?
The V6. So, the V6. 6 cylinders split into 2 banks of 3, forming that V shape, usually at either a 60-degree or 90-degree angle between the banks depending on the manufacturer.
And why does the angle matter?
Great question. The angle affects balance, packaging, and how smooth the engine runs. A 60-degree V6 is naturally very well balanced. The firing intervals work out almost perfectly. A 90-degree V6 is a bit wider, but can be easier to manufacture because manufacturers can share tooling with V8 platforms.
So it's not just aesthetic. The angle is actually doing engineering work.
The angle is doing a lot of work, yeah. Now, the whole point of the V6 is that it gets you 6-cylinder smoothness and power in a more compact package than an inline 6. Because you're folding those 6 cylinders into a V, the engine is shorter front to back, which means it can actually fit transversely in front-wheel drive cars.
So the V6 is basically the inline 6 that went to the gym and got more compact.
Kind of. Though inline 6 fans would argue the V6 sacrificed some refinement in the process. Because with 2 separate cylinder heads, 2 separate banks, there's more inherent complexity, slightly more vibration potential, and more parts to maintain.
So it's the compromise option. Not as pure as the inline 6, but fits in more places.
Exactly. And that versatility is exactly why it became so popular. You'll find V6s in mid-size sedans, SUVs, trucks, minivans, sports cars, basically anywhere that needs a meaningful step up from a 4-cylinder without going full V8.
So it's the middle child of the engine world?
In the best possible way, and the range of cars that use a V6 is genuinely wild. You've got the Nissan Maxima, the Toyota Camry V6, the Ford Mustang in its base trim, pickup trucks like the Toyota Tundra, Sports cars like earlier Porsche 911 models, the Acura NSX in its original form,
Wait, the original NSX had a V6?
a 3-liter naturally aspirated V6, mid-mounted, revving to nearly 8,000 RPM, and it was one of the best handling cars of its era because Honda engineered it so well.
So the V6 can actually be a proper sports car engine when it's done right.
When it's done right, absolutely. And the legendary V6 engines are genuinely impressive. Nissan's VG30 DTT twin-turbo from the 300ZX is a cult classic. Honda's J-Series V6 is famous for reliability and smooth power. And in trucks and SUVs, V6s have become so good with turbocharging that they're genuinely matching older V8s for torque.
So turbocharging is just the answer to everything, apparently?
Turbocharging fixes a lot of problems, yeah. Now, the sound and feel of a V6, it sits in this interesting middle ground. It's more refined and smooth than a 4-cylinder, with this muscular, throaty note under acceleration. Not as dramatic as a V8, but definitely not boring either.
So, like, it's the character in the show that's cool and competent but isn't the main character. The reliable deuteragonist.
The deuteragonist, I love that. And honestly, that's a fair description. The V6 rarely gets the glory, but it quietly powers an enormous amount of cars all over the world, does it well, and asks for little credit.
Underappreciated king, honestly.
Underappreciated for sure, though with turbo 4s getting so good and electrification pushing in, the V6 is slowly declining in passenger cars. It's holding strong in trucks and SUVs, but in your typical sedan, it's getting rarer.
Oof, another one biting the dust to turbo 4s and EVs.
The industry moves on, but the V6's legacy, especially in performance and truck applications, is secure. Smooth, versatile, torquey, and adaptable. That's the V6.
Solid engine, doesn't ask for much, just delivers. I respect that.
All right, so we've met the smooth operator, the versatile middle child, the engine that fits everywhere and complains about nothing.
Love him.
But now, we talk about the one that doesn't care about being subtle. The one that doesn't care about fitting neatly into things. The one that just wants you to feel it.
Oh, we're doing the V8, aren't we?
We're doing the V8.
Let's go.
The V8, 8 cylinders, 2 banks of 4, typically at a 90-degree angle. And if the inline 6 is the refined gentleman of the engine world, the V8 is the guy who walks into the room and the whole building shakes.
So it's the Gojo Satoru of engines. Loud, powerful, completely unbothered, and everyone knows when it's in the room.
Yes, exactly that. Now, the V8 exists because at a certain point, 4 cylinders and 6 cylinders just weren't enough. Early 20th century, cars were getting bigger, faster, more demanding, and engineers needed more displacement, more torque, more power. So they took a V layout and doubled the cylinders to 8.
More is more. Very American logic.
Very American logic. And it's no coincidence that the V8 became the engine of American car culture. Because in the US, you had big roads, cheap fuel, and a culture that genuinely celebrated power and excess. The V8 fit that perfectly.
It's literally the engine equivalent of a supersized meal. Why have the medium when you can have the large?
And the thing about the V8 is, it doesn't just make power, it makes power in this very specific, very visceral way. Because of how the 8 cylinders fire, especially in what's called a cross-plane configuration, which is the most common setup, you get this uneven, rumbling, overlapping exhaust note that creates the classic V8 burble.
The burble, yeah. Even people who don't care about cars know that sound.
It's one of the most recognizable sounds in the world. That low potato idle that builds into a roar when you get on the throttle. It's theatrical, it's emotional.
It genuinely makes your chest vibrate. I've stood next to a running V8 and it's just like your whole body knows something serious is happening.
It's a full sensory experience. And the cars that carry this engine, legendary doesn't even cover it. The Chevrolet Corvette, the Ford Mustang GT, the Dodge Challenger Hellcat, classic muscle like the original Camaro and the Charger, trucks like the Ford F-150, luxury icons like the Cadillac Escalade.
So the V8 is basically powering the entire American dream on 4 wheels.
It basically is. And then the legendary engines within that? GM's LS family is probably the most celebrated engine swap platform ever made. People put LS engines in everything. Old cars, kit cars, boats, things that have no business having an LS in them.
The LS swap is genuinely a meme at this point. Someone puts a V8 in a Miata and the comment section just goes, LS swap it, as a reflex.
It's a reflex because it actually works. The LS is compact for a V8, makes loads of power, and is incredibly reliable. And then Ford's 5.0 Coyote in the modern Mustang, another icon. Chrysler's HMI V8, another legend. Ferrari's Colombo V8 for the exotic side of things.
Wait, Ferrari has a V8 too?
Ferrari has been making V8s for decades. The 308, the 348, the F40's twin-turbo V8, all the way up to modern cars like the 488 and the 296's predecessor. Italian V8 is a very different personality to American V8, though.
How so?
American V8 is big displacement, low revving, massive torque from the bottom. Think of it like a freight train. It doesn't need to spin fast, it just pulls. Italian V8 is smaller displacement, high revving, makes its power at the top of the rev range. Think sports car, not muscle car.
So, American V8 is Doomslayer, raw, powerful, unstoppable force of destruction. Italian V8 is like a speedster character, lighter, faster, more precise.
That is an actually perfect way to put it. Same basic layout, completely different philosophies.
I love how the same engine type can have such different personalities depending on who builds it.
That's what makes engines so fascinating. The layout is just the starting point. What you do with it defines the character. Now, the V8 isn't without its issues. Fuel economy is not its strong suit. At all.
Yeah, shockingly, 8 large cylinders drinking fuel is not going to win any efficiency awards.
Not even close. It's heavy, it's physically large, and in an era of strict emissions regulations, it's increasingly hard to justify in normal passenger cars, which is why V8s are becoming more and more concentrated in trucks, performance cars, and luxury vehicles, places where the experience justifies the cost.
So it's retreating to its natural habitat. The muscle car, the truck, the supercar?
Exactly where it belongs, honestly. And even there, it's fighting. Supercharged and turbocharged V8s are keeping pace by making even more power to stay relevant against electric motors.
It refuses to go quietly, appropriate for its personality.
Very on brand. The V8 will make noise until the very end. And honestly, good. The world would be a little less interesting without it.
Hot damn, the V8 really is just built different.
Built different, sounds different, feels different. It's not the most efficient, not the most refined, but when you want presence, when you want that feeling in your chest and that sound in your ears, nothing else comes close.
Okay, so to recap this chapter, the V6 is the smooth, versatile deuteragonist that powers everything quietly and gets no credit. And the V8 is the loud, legendary main character that walks into every room like it owns the place.
Perfect summary. Two very different members of the V family, but both iconic in their own right.
Two different kinds of greatness.
Okay, so we've covered the V6 and the V8, the versatile middle child and the loud American icon. But here's the thing.
There's always a but here's the thing with you.
There's always a but here's the thing because there's always more. Because some engineers looked at the V8 and said, okay, that's cool, but what if we just kept going?
Of course they did, because engineers are just built to go, yeah, but what if more?
It's literally their job description. And when you keep going past 8 cylinders in a V layout, you enter this territory that's less about practicality and more about,
Showing off?
I was gonna say engineering ambition, but showing off works too.
It's the same thing at a certain point.
It really is. So, welcome to the deep end of the V family. We're talking V10 and V12, the engines that exist at the intersection of motorsport, supercar culture, and the kind of engineering that makes normal people just stop and stare.
Okay, I'm fully buckled in. Let's go.
Now, the V10, 10 cylinders, 2 banks of 5, usually sitting at a 90-degree angle. And if the V8 is the chest-thumping bruiser, the V10 is something else entirely.
Different how?
The V10 is a screamer. Where the V8 rumbles and roars, the V10 wails. It fires every 72 degrees of crank rotation, which creates this incredibly rapid,
high-pitched exhaust pulse that sounds, honestly, like something from a different planet.
Like a spaceship?
Like a very angry spaceship that also wants to eat you. And the reason for that sound is directly connected to where the V10 came from, because this engine layout didn't start in road cars, it started in Formula One.
Oh wait, F1 used V10s?
Throughout most of the 1990s, F1 ran V10s, naturally aspirated, spinning to over 18,000 RPM, making close to 900 horsepower from about 3 liters of displacement. No turbo, just pure, screaming mechanical fury.
Holy, 18,000 RPM. That's not an engine, that's a literal turbine.
The sound those F1 cars made is genuinely one of the most incredible things ever recorded. People who were at those races describe it as physically painful at close range, like standing next to a jet engine.
And I've seen videos of those old F1 cars, and even through a phone speaker, it sounds unreal. In person, that must have been absolutely insane.
Completely insane. And then, because F1 technology always trickles down, manufacturers started putting V10s in road cars, and the results were exactly what you'd expect.
Chaos. Beautiful, expensive chaos.
The Dodge Viper, the Porsche Carrera GT, the Lamborghini Gallardo and Huracan, the Audi R8 in its V10 form.
Okay, the Carrera GT, that's the one that's famously one of the most difficult cars to drive ever made, right?
Notoriously difficult. Naturally aspirated 5.7-liter V10, no stability control worth mentioning, a ceramic clutch that was incredibly unforgiving. It was a car that demanded complete respect and complete skill from the driver.
So it's the Dark Souls of road cars. No hand-holding, get good or get wrecked.
That is exactly what it was. And the Dodge Viper, completely different personality but equally unhinged, because the Viper's V10 started life as a truck engine.
Wait, what?
Dodge originally developed the Viper's V10 as a concept for a truck engine. Then they put it in the Viper, bored it out to 8.4 liters.
8.4 liters?
8.4 liters, pushrod V10, no turbo, no supercharger, just absolutely massive displacement doing the work.
So they took a truck engine, made it bigger, and put it in a sports car and said, yeah, this is fine.
And it made 640 horsepower in later versions from a naturally aspirated engine. Pure displacement, pure mechanical force.
That's not engineering, that's a threat.
Viper was always a threat. No ABS for a long time, massive power, and rear-wheel drive only. It was a car that would genuinely try to kill you if you weren't paying attention.
Meanwhile, the Lamborghini Huracan with its V10 is like, yeah, it's wild, but it at least has electronics helping you not die.
Modern electronics make the Huracan's 5.2-liter naturally aspirated V10 actually accessible to people who aren't professional racing drivers, but the soul of it, that high-revving, screaming, race-bred character, is still very much there.
The Huracan sounds absolutely unreal. I've watched enough car videos to know that V10 Lambo noise is just on a different level.
It's one of the best engine sounds ever made. Naturally aspirated, spinning high, just this sustained mechanical scream that builds and builds.
Okay, so the V10 is basically the guitar solo of engine layouts. Everything before it is the build-up, and then it just goes absolutely off.
That's a great way to put it. And the sad reality is, new production V10s are essentially gone now. The last of them faded out around 2020 as emissions regulations made naturally aspirated high-displacement engines basically impossible to justify. The Huracan's V10 is one of the last ones.
Oof, so we're watching the end of an era in real time.
We really are. The V10 is a dying breed, and when it's gone, nothing is going to sound quite like it ever again.
Okay, that actually made me a little sad.
Same, but the legacy is permanent. The sound, the fury, the absolutely unhinged driving experience, V10 forever.
V10 forever. Respect.
Okay, so we've talked about the engine that screams, the race-bred, high-revving, emotionally overwhelming V10. But now we're going somewhere different.
Different how?
Because where the V10 is aggressive and loud and in your face, the V12 is something much more composed.
Composed? A 12-cylinder engine is composed?
The V12 doesn't need to shout. It's already won.
Oh, okay. I see where this is going.
The V12, 12 cylinders, 2 banks of 6, usually at a 60-degree angle. And here's the thing about the V12 that makes it genuinely special from a pure engineering standpoint.
Is this another mathematically perfect situation?
Kind of, yeah. Because a V12 at 60 degrees is essentially two inline 6 engines fused together, sharing one crankshaft. And remember what we said about the inline 6?
Perfectly balanced, naturally smooth. The noise-canceling headphones of engines.
Right. So take two of those, fuse them, and what you get is an engine that fires every 60 degrees of crank rotation. Incredibly rapid, incredibly even, with virtually zero vibration. It is as smooth as a combustion engine can physically get.
So it's like the inline 6 was already the smoothest we'd covered, and the V12 is just like, hold my champagne.
Hold my very expensive champagne, yes. And that smoothness, that absolute refinement, that's why the V12 became the engine of ultra luxury. Because when Rolls-Royce puts a V12 in the Phantom, they're not just selling you horsepower, they're selling you the feeling of absolute isolation from the outside world. No vibration, no harshness, just this effortless, endless wave of power.
So it's less of an engine and more of a statement.
It's entirely a statement. It says, we didn't have to do this. We could have used a V8, we could have used a V6, but we chose 12 cylinders because we can and because you deserve the best.
That's so extra. I love it completely.
And it's not just luxury. The V12 has deep roots in performance too. Ferrari has been building V12 since the very beginning. The Colombo V12, designed by Gioacchino Colombo, powered Ferrari's earliest racing cars in the late 1940s and evolved across decades into some of the greatest naturally aspirated V12s ever made.
So Ferrari's V12 literally has a bloodline going back to when the company was basically brand new.
Ferrari's relationship with the V12 is one of the longest and most committed in all of automotive history. The current 812 Superfast, 6.5-liter naturally aspirated V12, nearly 800 horsepower, revving to 8,900 RPM, is one of the last great naturally aspirated V12 road cars ever made.
8,900 RPM from a naturally aspirated V12. That shouldn't be possible. That's insane.
It's an absolutely extraordinary engine, and the sound it makes at full throttle is this incredible operatic wail. Not the brutal roar of a V8, not the sci-fi scream of a V10, but this soaring, almost musical crescendo that genuinely sounds like nothing else.
So if the V8 is heavy metal and the V10 is a guitar solo, the V12 is a full orchestra hitting the climax.
That is the most accurate sound comparison I've ever heard for a V12. Write that down.
Already did.
And then Lamborghini, their original V12, the one that's been in every Countach, Diablo, Murcielago, and Aventador, is another legend. Different character to Ferrari's, bigger displacement, more torque-focused, but equally iconic.
The Aventara's V12 is naturally aspirated too, right? 6.5 liters?
6.5 liters, naturally aspirated, no turbos, making around 770 horsepower and revving past 8,500 RPM. And Lamborghini just ended production of it with the Aventador Ultimate, essentially a goodbye to one of the greatest V12s ever made.
That's genuinely sad, like watching a legend retire.
It really is. And on the luxury side, Aston Martin DB11 AMR, Rolls-Royce Phantom, Bentley Mulsanne before it was discontinued, all V12s, all making this same point that 12 cylinders represents the absolute pinnacle of what a combustion engine can be.
So the V12 is basically the final boss of engine layouts in terms of refinement and prestige.
In terms of refinement and prestige, absolutely. The disadvantages are significant, though. It's enormous, it's incredibly heavy, it drinks fuel at a rate that makes accountants cry, and it costs a fortune to build and maintain. This is not an engine for practical people.
Yeah, if you're shopping for a V12 car and asking about fuel economy, you've fundamentally misunderstood the assignment.
Completely misunderstood. The V12 buyer is not thinking about fuel economy. They're thinking about how it feels to press the accelerator and have 12 cylinders respond in perfect, unified, effortless harmony.
It's the engine for people who have already solved all their practical problems and now just want to experience something extraordinary.
That is exactly the V12 customer. And the future of the V12 is honestly pretty uncertain. Electrification and emissions regulations are pushing even Ferrari and Lamborghini towards hybrid and eventually fully electric powertrains. Pure combustion V12 road cars are becoming rarer every year.
So we might actually be in the last generation of V12 road cars.
Quite possibly, which makes every remaining naturally aspirated V12 road car something genuinely precious, a piece of engineering history that won't be repeated.
Okay, I need a moment. The V10 is dying, the V12 is dying. This episode is emotionally devastating.
Car people feel this deeply. These engines represent decades of passion, engineering artistry, and car culture. Losing them to regulations and electrification is genuinely bittersweet.
Even for someone like me who's not a full car person, I get it. It's like watching a craft disappear.
Exactly what it is. So, to recap our V family, V6, the smooth, versatile operator. V8, the loud, legendary icon. V10, the high-revving, screaming racer. And V12, the absolute pinnacle of refinement and prestige.
4 very different personalities, all sharing that V shape, all iconic in completely different ways.
The V family in full, from practical to absolutely unhinged.
That would be chaotic family reunion, honestly.
Chaotic. Now, we're leaving the V family behind because up next, we've got engines that don't stand upright at all.
Wait, what do you mean don't stand upright?
I mean the cylinders lay completely flat, on their sides, punching horizontally towards each other.
That sounds deeply wrong.
It sounds wrong, but it works incredibly well. We're talking about the boxer engines, and specifically the 2 that matter most in car culture.
Oh, Porsche and Subaru territory.
Porsche and Subaru territory, and it's going to be a great one.
Let's get into it.
So, everything we've covered so far, inline engines, V engines, they all have one thing in common. The cylinders are either standing upright or angled upward in that V shape. They're all working vertically in some way.
Right, like the pistons are going up and down.
Exactly, up and down. That's just how engines work, right?
I mean, apparently not.
Apparently not, because the next family of engines said, what if instead of up and down, we go sideways?
Sideways. The pistons go sideways.
The cylinders lay completely flat, horizontally opposed, meaning one bank points left, the other bank points right. And the pistons punch toward each other from opposite sides around a central crankshaft.
So they're like 2 people in a shoving match, but they're also somehow working together?
That is genuinely how it works, yeah. And because of that layout, because the engine is lying flat instead of standing tall, it sits low in the car, much lower than any upright engine can.
And a lower engine means a lower center of gravity.
Which means better handling, better balance, more stable cornering. The physics reward you for going horizontal.
Okay, so it's not just weird for the sake of being weird. There's a real reason.
There's a very real reason. And the 2 manufacturers that committed hardest to this layout and built their entire identities around it are Subaru and Porsche.
Of course, the 2 most passionate fan bases in all of car culture.
Both deeply loyal, both absolutely convinced their choice is correct, both slightly insufferable about it.
I say this with love to both fan bases.
With full love. All right, let's start with the 4-cylinder version, the flat 4. The flat 4 cylinders, horizontally opposed, 2 on each side, lying flat, pistons punching sideways toward the crankshaft in the middle, also called a boxer engine because the pistons move like a boxer's fists punching toward each other simultaneously.
Oh, that's actually a really cool name origin. Boxer engine because it literally boxes.
It literally boxes. And the flat 4 has this really interesting characteristic because of how those opposing pistons move. When one fires and pushes out, the one directly opposite is also moving in sync, which naturally cancels out a lot of the primary vibration.
So they're punching against each other and the forces cancel out, like how noise canceling works, but for engine shape.
Exactly that. Now, it's not perfectly balanced, there's still some inherent rocking, but compared to an equivalent inline 4, it's notably smoother in terms of vibration. The real benefit, though, is that center of gravity.
Yeah, you mentioned that. The engine sits low, so the car handles better.
Sits so low that in a Subaru, the engine is basically at the same height as the wheel hubs. It fundamentally changes how the car feels dynamically. more planted, more confidence-inspiring, less tendency to roll in corners.
So it's basically the engineering equivalent of lowering your stance in a fighting game. More stable, harder to knock over.
Perfect analogy. And Subaru took this layout and combined it with their symmetrical all-wheel drive system. And what they got was this incredibly balanced, grippy, go-anywhere package that became absolutely legendary in rallying.
The WRX and STI, here we go.
The Impreza WRX STI with its turbocharged EJ20 Flat 4, one of the most celebrated rally cars ever. Carlos Sainz, Richard Burns, Petter Solberg, winning World Rally Championships behind a turbocharged Subaru Flat 4.
The EJ20 is genuinely iconic. Like, Subaru people talk about that engine the way sports fans talk about legendary players. Retired, but never forgotten.
And the thing about the EJ20 specifically is that it became this massive tuning platform. People were pulling incredible power from it with relatively simple modifications because the bottom end was so robust.
So it's the 2JZ of boxer engines.
In the Subaru world, absolutely. Durable, tunable, and deeply loved. Now, the Flat 4 also has this distinctive sound that's worth talking about because it doesn't sound like a regular four-cylinder at all.
Yeah, Subarus have that burble, right? That kind of uneven sound at idle?
Exactly. That distinctive, uneven burble at idle, almost like a slightly offbeat rhythm, comes from the firing order of the Flat 4 and the way the exhaust headers are designed. It's become a signature sound. Subaru people love that burble.
It's literally how you identify a Subaru from a block away. You hear that sound and you just know.
It's genuinely one of the most recognizable engine sounds in all of car culture. And at higher revs, especially with turbo, it develops this raspy, aggressive character that sounds incredibly purposeful.
Like it means business.
Like it absolutely means business. Now, the Flat 4 isn't without its quirks. Because the cylinders are horizontal, oil control and cooling can be more challenging than in an upright engine. The block casting is more complex, which makes it more expensive to manufacture, and the engine is wide, which can create packaging challenges in the engine bay.
So it's wide instead of tall, trades one packaging problem for another.
Exactly. But for Subaru's specific application, symmetrical all-wheel drive, low center of gravity, rally performance, those trade-offs are completely worth it.
And Porsche also used a Flat 4, right, in older cars?
Porsche used air-cooled Flat 4s in the original 556 and early 912 models, the more affordable siblings to the 911. And in the modern era, the 718 Boxster and Cayman use a turbocharged Flat 4.
How did that go down with Porsche fans when they switched from a Flat 6 to a Flat 4?
Not well initially. There was a significant amount of upset because the 981 generation Boxster and Cayman had the Flat 6 and it was beloved. When Porsche downsized to a turbocharged Flat 4 to the 982 generation, the fan base was very vocal.
Classic case of you changed it, now it's ruined.
Though, to Porsche's credit, the turbocharged Flat 4 they made is genuinely excellent, very fast, very capable. It just doesn't have quite the same character as the Flat 6.
And in car culture, character matters just as much as performance numbers.
Character matters enormously, which is a perfect segue because the engine with arguably the most character in all of Porsche's lineup and one of the most character-rich engines in all of automotive history is the one we're talking about next.
The Flat 6.
The Flat 6.
So the Flat 4 is the rally fighter. Grippy, balanced, turbocharged, and absolutely at home in the dirt and the rain and the snow. But now, we're talking about an engine that took that same horizontal philosophy and elevated it to something that is genuinely considered one of the greatest engineering achievements in sports car history.
No pressure on the Flat 6.
Zero pressure. It handles it completely. The Flat 6. 6 cylinders, horizontally opposed, 3 on each side. And this engine is so deeply associated with one car, one specific car, that it's almost impossible to talk about them separately.
The Porsche 911.
The Porsche 911. Since 1963, over 60 years, the 911 has always had a Flat 6 mounted in the rear of the car, behind the rear axle. And that combination of rear engine placement and Flat 6 layout has defined everything about how the 911 drives, handles, and feels.
Wait, the engine is behind the rear wheels, like at the very back of the car?
Behind the rear axle, which from a pure physics standpoint sounds like a terrible idea. You'd think having that much weight at the very back would make the car unstable and prone to spinning out.
Yeah, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
And early 911s were genuinely challenging because of it. Get too aggressive in a corner and the rear weight would swing the back of the car around. It was a car that required skill and respect.
So it's the Carrera GT's grandfather, punishes the disrespectful.
In a way, yeah. But here's the genius. Porsche spent decades learning how to make that rear engine layout work for the driver instead of against them. And the flat six, because it sits so low and so flat, actually keeps that rear weight as low as possible, which partially tames the handling and gives the 911 this incredibly unique rear-biased balance that no other car replicates.
So instead of fixing the weird layout, they just mastered it.
They mastered it so completely that the 911's handling is now considered one of the benchmarks in sports car dynamics. Engineers from other manufacturers study it.
That's honestly kind of incredible. They took what should be a flaw and turned it into a signature.
That's the 911 story in one sentence. And the flat six is central to all of it, because its low, wide profile is what makes the rear engine layout remotely workable at high speed.
So the engine shape and the car layout are completely codependent. You can't have one without the other making sense.
Perfectly put. Now, the flat six also shares that same perfect balance characteristic we talked about with the inline six, just in a horizontal layout. The opposing pairs of cylinders cancel each other's forces, giving you smooth operation with minimal vibration.
So it's got the smoothness of the inline six, but lying flat on its side.
Inline six smoothness, boxer low center of gravity, rear engine character, all in one package. And the sound. A Porsche flat six has this very specific refined howl that builds into an almost operatic wail at high revs. Not as dramatic as a V12, not as aggressive as a V8, but this precise, mechanical, purposeful note that just screams sports car.
It's a very specific sound, like you know it's a Porsche before you see it.
Immediately identifiable. And the legendary engines in this family are genuinely revered. The air-cooled flat sixes from the 993 generation and earlier are considered some of the greatest engines ever made. Air-cooled meaning no water, no radiator. The engine breathes air directly to stay cool.
No water cooling? How does that even work reliably?
Very carefully engineered fins and passages in the engine casting that allow airflow to carry heat away. It works, but it runs hotter, sounds different, and has this very particular mechanical clatter and character that air-cooled Porsche fans are deeply passionate about.
Air-cooled Porsche fans are a whole subsection of car culture, aren't they?
They are their own universe, honestly. Very specific, very passionate, slightly intimidating if you don't know the history.
Sounds about right for Porsche people.
With full respect. And then the water-cooled era brought the Metzger engine, used in the GT2, GT3, and various motorsport variants, which became one of the most celebrated flat sixes ever made for its strength, its tuning potential, and its motorsport pedigree.
Porsche Flat 6 has Le Mans wins, right?
24 Le Mans wins for the 911 overall across different eras. The 911 has been winning races since before most of the people watching this video were born.
That's just generational dominance. That's the Serena Williams of engines.
I'll take that. Decades of winning, multiple generations, still going. And in the current 911 lineup, the GT3's naturally aspirated flat six revving to 9,000 RPM is considered by many to be the finest naturally aspirated sports car engine currently in production.
9,000 RPM naturally aspirated. That's Formula One territory for a road car.
For a road car you can drive to the supermarket and then take to a track day on the weekend. That's what makes it extraordinary.
Porsche really said, daily driver, track weapon, yes.
That's been the 911's promise for 60 years. Now, the flat six does have its challenges. It's very wide, even more so than the flat four, which means it only really works in specific chassis designs. And it's expensive to manufacture because of the specialized flat crankcase and the complexity of getting cooling right across all 6 cylinders lying horizontal.
So it's essentially a Porsche exclusive engine at this point.
Almost exclusively, no other major manufacturer has committed to a flat six long-term the way Porsche has. It's their signature, their engineering identity.
Which is kind of beautiful, actually. Like this one layout defines an entire brand.
Completely defines it. Take the flat six out of Porsche's story and the 911 doesn't exist as we know it. The handling, the sound, the character,
All of it traces back to those 6 horizontally opposed cylinders sitting behind the rear axle.
So to wrap up the flat family, the flat 4 is the rally fighter, grippy, turbocharged, all-weather weapon, and the flat 6 is the soul of the sports car, refined, precise, historically dominant, and absolutely synonymous with one of the greatest cars ever made.
Perfect summary. 2 engines, same basic philosophy, lie flat, stay low, fight gravity, but completely different characters and completely different homes.
The flat 4 is out there in the mud winning rallies, and the flat 6 is out there on a racetrack winning Le Mans.
2 different kinds of greatness, both earned through decades of commitment to one specific layout.
I genuinely love how every engine we've talked about has its own story, like they're all characters in the same universe.
That's exactly what they are. And we're not done yet, because the next engines we're covering are the weird ones, the experimental ones, the ones that engineers built because the normal rules apparently didn't apply to them.
Finally, the chaotic ones.
The most chaotic one first, and it only has one moving part in its core mechanism.
Wait, one moving part? How does an engine have one moving part?
No pistons, no valves, just a triangle spinning inside a housing.
What?
Welcome to the rotary engine.
Oh, this is gonna break my brain, isn't it?
Almost certainly.
All right, so we've been through the inline family, the V family, the boxer family. We've met workhorses and legends and icons and rally fighters. But now we're in the final stretch. And this last group of engines is special because they don't really belong to any family.
The outcasts.
The oddballs, the ones that engineers built by essentially ignoring the established playbook and asking, what if we tried something completely different?
Engineers really do just wake up some days and choose chaos, don't they?
The best ones do. And the results range from genuinely brilliant to absolutely unhinged. So, let's start with the one that threw out the entire concept of pistons altogether.
The rotary.
The rotary.
Okay, explain this to me like I've never heard of it, because I genuinely don't fully understand how it works.
That's exactly what we're going to do. So, every engine we've talked about up until now works on the same basic principle. Pistons going up and down inside cylinders, converting that back and forth motion into rotational power through a crankshaft, right?
Right. Pistons go up and down, crankshaft spins, car goes forward. That's the whole deal.
That's the whole deal for every conventional engine. But a German engineer named Felix Wankel looked at that system in the 1950s and said, what if instead of pistons going up and down, we just had a rotor spinning continuously in a circle?
A rotor? Like a triangle-shaped thing spinning?
Exactly a triangle. A rounded triangular rotor spinning eccentrically, meaning slightly off-center, inside a housing shaped like a squished oval. And as that triangle spins, its 3 corners trace the walls of the housing and create 3 separate chambers that expand and contract continuously.
So the 3 sides of the triangle are basically doing what 3 pistons would do, just by spinning instead of going up and down.
Perfectly understood. Each of those 3 chambers goes through intake, compression, power, and exhaust, just like a normal engine. But because the rotor is spinning continuously, you get 1 power event per face of the triangle per rotation, 3 power events per revolution of the rotor.
So it's like getting 3 power strokes for the price of 1 rotation. That's actually really efficient sounding.
In theory, it's brilliant, and the practical advantages are real. The rotary engine is tiny, compact beyond what you'd believe for the power it makes. It has far fewer moving parts than a piston engine. No valves, no camshafts, no connecting rods, just a rotor spinning in a housing.
So mechanically, it's incredibly simple.
Mechanically simple, incredibly smooth. Because there's no reciprocating motion at all, no pistons reversing direction, the rotary is almost completely vibration-free at high revs, and it loves to rev. It'll spin to stratospheric RPM without breaking a sweat.
So it's smooth and high revving and compact. Sounds perfect. Why isn't every car using this?
Because the rotary has a dark side.
Of course it does.
The rotor has 3 tips called apex seals that are constantly dragging along the housing walls to maintain those 3 chambers. And keeping those apex seals sealed properly across temperature changes, across high revs, across thousands of miles is genuinely challenging. When apex seals wear or fail,
the engine loses compression and starts burning oil.
So the thing that makes it work is also the thing that kills it.
The apex seals are simultaneously the Rotary's greatest engineering challenge and its Achilles heel. And because the combustion chamber shape in a rotary is long and thin, unlike the compact sphere of a piston engine combustion chamber, it doesn't burn fuel as completely, which means higher emissions and worse fuel economy.
So it's fast and smooth, but thirsty and fragile. It's the glass cannon of engines.
That is the perfect description. High damage output, low durability stat.
So who actually committed to this engine? Because somebody clearly did.
One company alone took the rotary engine and made it their identity, their passion, and their mission for decades.
Mazda.
Mazda. While every other manufacturer tried rotary engines and eventually walked away, Mazda stayed. They built the Cosmos Sport in 1967 as the world's first production rotary car, then the RX-7 across 3 generations, then the RX-8. And they won Le Mans in 1991 with a 4-rotor rotary in the 787B.
Wait, Mazda won Le Mans? Like the actual 24 hours of Le Mans?
1991, the Mazda 787B with a 4-rotor rotary engine beat every Ferrari, every Jaguar, every Mercedes, and became the only Japanese manufacturer ever to win outright at Le Mans.
Holy crap, I did not know that. Mazda just showed up with their weird triangle engine and won the most prestigious endurance race in the world?
Against all expectations, against all conventional wisdom, yes. And the sound that 4-rotor rotary made at Le Mans is genuinely one of the most extraordinary engine sounds ever recorded. This high-pitched, almost 2-stroke-like scream that was completely unlike anything else in the race.
Okay, Mazda immediately went up in my respect rankings. That's genuinely one of the coolest things I've heard in this whole episode.
It's one of the great underdog stories in motorsport history. And the road car rotary, especially the FD RX-7 with its twin sequential turbocharged 13B REW, became an absolute legend. Lightweight, balanced, that peaky top-end power delivery creating this addictive driving experience that rotary fans describe as unlike anything else.
The FD RX-7 is one of those cars that just looks like it was drawn by someone who really loved cars. Everything about it is just right aesthetically.
Gorgeous car, and the rotary gave it this specific character, that high-pitched scream at the top of the rev range, that lightweight feel, that almost telepathic steering response because there's so little weight over the front axle.
So driving a rotary car is a specific experience that no piston engine can really replicate.
Completely unique, which is why rotary fans are so passionate. Once you've experienced it, nothing else feels quite the same.
It's like a limited edition mechanic in a game that they removed in a later patch and the community never forgave them for it.
And Mazda kind of brought it back. The MX-30 REV uses a small single-rotor Wankel as a range extender in a hybrid system. Not a performance application, but keeping the technology alive.
So the rotary is technically still breathing, just in a very different role.
Hanging on, waiting for its moment, because Mazda has never fully let go. And honestly, good. The rotary deserves to exist.
The mad genius of engines. Unconventional, brilliant, flawed, and completely irreplaceable.
That's the rotary. All right, now we're moving into the final 3. And these last engines are less about revolution and more about clever engineering solutions to very specific problems.
Okay, bring him in.
Next is the VR6. Now this one requires a quick explanation because it's genuinely clever. Volkswagen had a problem in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Their customers wanted 6-cylinder power, smooth, refined, more than a 4-cylinder. But their cars were designed around compact, transversely mounted engines, sideways in the engine bay for front-wheel drive.
And an inline 6 is too long to go sideways.
Way too long. And a proper V6 is wide and complex with 2 cylinder heads. So VW's engineers came up with something genuinely unique. What if you made a V6 with an angle so narrow, just 10.6 to 15 degrees between the banks, that both banks could share a single cylinder head?
Wait, a V engine with one head? How is the angle that narrow and it still works?
The cylinders are staggered, offset from each other slightly along the length of the block, which allows that incredibly tight V angle while still giving each cylinder its own space.
The result looks almost like an inline engine from the outside, but has this subtle zigzag of cylinders inside.
So it's like VW took an inline 6, slightly bent it in the middle and called it a V.
That's actually a really good way to visualize it. It's shorter than an inline 6, fits transversely, has only one cylinder head like an inline engine, but generates 6-cylinder power and smoothness. Best of both worlds squeezed into a package that slots into a Golf-sized engine bay.
That's genuinely clever, like a compression algorithm but for engines.
Engineering compression, yeah. And the cars it went into, the VW Corrado VR6, the Golf and Jetta VR6, the Passat, suddenly had this smooth, torquey, characterful 6-cylinder that felt genuinely premium in what were relatively modest cars.
So VW basically gave their affordable cars a luxury engine experience through clever packaging.
That's exactly what they did. And the sound, a VR6 has this distinctive nasal, slightly growly note that's very different to a conventional V6. Because of the narrow angle and single head, the firing pattern creates a very specific character.
I've heard VR6 Golfs and they do sound kind of unique, like a proper engine sound in a small car.
Punches above its weight sonically. The downside is that the offset cylinder bores put some stress on the block. Deep cylinders can be annoying to service, and because it's such a niche layout, the parts ecosystem is smaller than mainstream engines.
So it's the clever specialist, does its one job really well, but you're not finding it everywhere.
And sadly, it's mostly gone now, replaced by turbocharged 4-cylinders that can match the power with better fuel economy. The VR6 faded out through the 2010s.
Another one lost to the Turbo 4. The Turbo 4 really is out here ending careers.
The Turbo 4 shows no mercy. But the VR6 was genuinely brilliant for its time, a creative engineering solution that gave drivers something special without requiring a completely new platform.
The VR6, the clever shortcut that worked so well people are still sad it's gone.
Perfectly said. All right, 2 more. And these 2 are where we leave clever and practical behind entirely and enter the realm of, frankly, engineering excess.
Finally, let's be excessive.
The W12. Now, you know how a V engine has 2 banks of cylinders forming a V shape?
Yeah.
A W engine takes that concept and adds 2 more banks. So instead of 2 rows of cylinders, you have 4 rows, arranged in a W shape when viewed from the front.
4 banks. So it's like 2 V engines fused together.
Essentially, 2 narrow-angle V6s, each at 60 degrees, sharing a single crankshaft. 12 cylinders total in a package that's significantly shorter than a conventional V12.
So the W12 exists because someone wanted V12 refinement but couldn't fit an actual V12 in their car.
Exactly, and the someone in this case was the VW group, Volkswagen, Audi, Bentley, who wanted to put 12-cylinder luxury and smoothness into cars that couldn't accommodate the sheer length of a traditional V12.
So it's the same motivation as the VR6. VW sees a packaging problem and invents a whole new engine architecture.
VW Group really does just invent engine configurations when cornered. And the W12 they built, the 6.0-liter twin turbocharged unit, went into some genuinely extraordinary cars. The Bentley Continental GT, the Bentley Flying Spur, the VW Phaeton, the Audi A8L W12.
The Continental GT with the W12 is just the definition of effortless, isn't it? Like you press the accelerator and 2 tons of luxury just surges forward without drama.
That's exactly it. The W12 doesn't make a scene. It doesn't roar or scream or announce itself. It just delivers this massive, smooth wave of torque in near silence, and the car moves like physics are optional.
It's the engine equivalent of a really powerful person who never raises their voice because they don't need to.
Quiet power, absolute confidence. And in a Bentley especially, where the whole point is that everything feels effortless and isolated and supremely premium, the W12 is the perfect mechanical expression of that philosophy.
The car equivalent of first class. Everything is smooth, everything is quiet, and the speed just happens to you.
Beautifully put. Now, the downsides, and with a W12, the downsides are predictable. It's heavy, it's complex with 4 cylinder banks and the maintenance access that implies, it's thirsty, and it costs a significant amount of money to build and service.
Yeah, but if you're buying a Bentley Continental GT, you've already accepted that the running costs are going to be terrifying.
You've made peace with the fuel bill, yes. And the W12's time is essentially up now. Bentley ended W12 production in 2024, transitioning to hybrid and eventually electric powertrains. The Continental GT W12 Speed was the final hurrah.
So the W12 is officially done?
The pure combustion W12 in road cars? Done. Another legend signing off.
This episode is a series of goodbyes, honestly.
Car history often is. But the W12's legacy, decades of Bentley excellence, that effortless Continental GT character, is permanent. Luxury overkill of the finest order.
The W12, because a V8 wasn't enough and a V12 was too long. Classic VW group.
All right, last engine, the final boss, the engine that exists at the absolute outer limit of what a combustion engine in a road car has ever been.
Oh God, the W16.
The W16.
Bugatti territory.
Exclusively Bugatti territory. And before we get into it, everything we've talked about today, every engine from the humble inline 3 to the W12, they all exist for some combination of practical reasons. Efficiency, packaging, cost, performance balance.
Right, every engine solves a problem.
The W16 does not solve a problem. The W16 is the problem, in the best possible way.
Okay, I need to hear this.
The W16, 16 cylinders, 4 banks of 4, 2 fused 90-degree V8s, essentially, sharing one crankshaft, 8.0 liters of displacement, 4 turbochargers.
4 turbochargers?
4 turbocharges. And in its most extreme form, the Chiron Supersport, it makes 1,600 horsepower.
1,600. That is not a road car number. That is a jet number.
It is genuinely in the territory of small aircraft engines in terms of output. And Bugatti built it because they had one specific mission: build the fastest, most powerful, most extraordinary road car on the planet. Full stop.
No compromises. No, well, we need to keep costs reasonable. Just maximum everything.
Maximum everything. The Veyron, the first car to use the W16, was the first production car to break 400 kilometers per hour. The Chiron Supersport pushed that to 490 kilometers per hour. That's over 300 miles per hour, in a car you can theoretically drive on public roads.
That speed is actually illegal in my brain. Like, my brain is rejecting that as a real number for a car.
The tires have to be specifically developed to not disintegrate at those speeds. The aerodynamics have to be precisely calculated to keep the car planted at velocities that most aircraft take off at.
So Bugatti isn't just building an engine, they're solving like 15 different engineering problems simultaneously just to keep this thing from becoming a very expensive missile.
Every system on a Bugatti Chiron is pushed to its absolute limit because the W16 demands it. The cooling system alone is extraordinary. 16 cylinders with 4 turbos generate heat that would destroy conventional cooling. Bugatti runs 10 radiators in the Chiron.
10 radiators. That's not a cooling system, that's a whole separate department.
An entire cooling department, yes. And the sound. The W16 doesn't sound like any other engine. It's this deep, bass-heavy surge that builds into what can only be described as a mechanical thunder, overlaid with the whoosh of 4 turbochargers spooling simultaneously. It's not musical like a V12, not dramatic like a V10, it's more like standing next to a force of nature.
Like a controlled explosion that just keeps happening.
Sustained, controlled explosion for as long as you hold the accelerator. And the feeling of it. People who've driven Bugattis describe the acceleration as genuinely disorienting. Your brain can't process the rate at which the scenery changes because no human experience prepares you for 1,600 horsepower in a road car.
It's like that thing in anime where a character moves so fast the other characters can't even track them, except the character is a car.
The W16 Bugatti is absolutely the Minato Namikaze of road cars. Gone before you've processed it was ever there.
Perfect, that's exactly it. Now this engine, obviously it's insanely expensive to build and maintain, right?
A service on a Bugatti Chiron costs more than most people's cars.
The engine is so complex, 16 cylinders, 4 turbos, 4 camshafts per bank, that accessing certain components requires partial disassembly of the car itself.
So it costs a fortune to buy, costs a fortune to run, drinks fuel like it's going out of style, and is essentially useless at normal road speeds because you'll never use more than a fraction of its capability.
Completely impractical by every measurable standard.
And yet,
And yet, it's one of the greatest achievements in automotive engineering history. Because Bugatti didn't build the W16 to be practical. They built it to prove that human engineering, human ambition, and human obsession with pushing limits could produce something that defies what seems physically possible.
it's not a car, it's a statement.
It's the loudest possible statement that combustion engineering can make, and the pure W16 is ending. Bugatti's next chapter moves toward hybrid powertrains, so the Chiron era represents the absolute peak, the final form of what a combustion-only hypercar engine could ever be.
So the W16 is not just the final boss of this episode, it's kind of the final boss of the entire combustion engine era.
When the history of the internal combustion engine is written, and that history is gradually coming to a close as electrification takes over, the W16 Bugatti will be the last chapter, the most extreme thing ever done, the punctuation mark at the end of a century of engine development.
That's actually kind of poetic. All of human engine engineering, from the first inline 3 puttering around in a city car, leading eventually to a 1,600 horsepower, 16-cylinder monster doing 300 miles per hour.
That's the full arc, and we just walked through the whole thing.
We really did. Holy crap.
All right, so let's bring it all home, because we've covered a lot of ground today, and I want to make sure everyone leaves with a clear picture.
Yeah, let's do a proper recap. Walk us through it.
So, engines. At their core, every engine we talked about today is doing the same fundamental thing: burning fuel, making pressure, converting that pressure into rotation, moving the car. Same basic mission across all of them.
But the way they do it, the layout, the number of cylinders, the configuration, that's what gives each one its personality.
Exactly. So starting from the beginning, the inline family. The inline 3 are scrappy underdog, small, efficient, a little buzzy, but surprisingly capable with a turbo. The engine that proves size isn't everything.
Ford's EcoBoost Triple winning engine of the year. Respect earned.
The inline 4, the world's workhorse, in more cars than any other layout across more than a century. Reliable and versatile and quietly carrying the entire industry on its back.
The duct tape of the engine world. Indispensable.
The inline 5, the charismatic oddball. That offbeat warbling sound, Audi's rally legacy, a niche choice that became iconic because it was different.
The mid-card character that went crazy when given the spotlight. Forever respected.
And the inline 6, the refined legend. Mathematically perfect balance, silky smooth power. The engine that built BMW's reputation and gave us the 2JZ and the RB26 and some of the greatest driving experiences in history.
The main character energy of the inline family. Earned every bit of it.
Then the V family. The V6, smooth, versatile, the underappreciated deuteronomist powering everything from minivans to sports cars without ever asking for credit.
Does the work, gets no glory. True professional behavior.
The V8, the icon. The sound, the torque, the theater, the American muscle legacy, the Italian exotic legacy, two completely different personalities sharing one layout and both being legendary.
Built different. Literally.
The V10, the screamer. Race-bred, high-revving, naturally aspirated fury distilled into road cars. The Viper, the Carrera GT, the Huracan, a dying breed that burned so brightly while it lasted.
V10 forever. Gone too soon.
And the V12, the pinnacle. Firing every 60 degrees, virtually vibration-free, the engines of Ferraris and Rolls-Royces and Lamborghinis. The statement that says we didn't have to, but we did because excellence demands it.
The final boss of refinement, operatic and irreplaceable.
Then the Boxer family. The Flat 4, Subaru's rally weapon. Low, grippy, turbocharged, that distinctive burble, symmetrical AWD, mud and rain and snow, its natural habitat.
Built for the elements, absolutely at home in chaos.
The Flat 6, Porsche's soul. 60 years in the 911, rear-mounted, perfectly balanced, 24 Le Mans wins,
the engine that turned a supposedly flawed layout into a benchmark for sports car dynamics.
Took a weakness and mastered it so completely it became a strength. Legendary.
And then our final four oddballs. The Rotary, Mazda's mad genius. No pistons, just a spinning triangle. Compact and smooth and high revving, and flawed and utterly irreplaceable. Le Mans winner, cult icon, still breathing.
The glass cannon, maximum output, minimum convention, zero regrets.
The VR6, VW's clever shortcut. 6 cylinders squeezed into a 4-cylinder space through a narrow-angle V and a single head. Brilliant packaging, distinctive sound, gone but not forgotten.
The compression algorithm of engines, clever until the end.
The W12, Bentley's luxury overkill. 2 V6s fused together, 12 cylinders in a compact package delivering effortless waves of torque in near silence. The engine of quiet power and supreme confidence.
First class, always first class.
And finally, the W16, Bugatti's final statement. 16 cylinders, 4 turbos, 1,600 horsepower, 300 miles per hour. Not practical, not reasonable, the absolute outer limit of what combustion engineering has ever achieved in a road car.
The final boss of the entire combustion era. The punctuation mark at the end of a century of engine history.
Every single one of these engines, from the humble little 3-cylinder in a city hatchback to the 16-cylinder hypercar, represents decades of engineering passion, creative problem-solving, and genuine human obsession with making machines move better, faster, smoother, and more memorably.
And honestly, learning about all of them today makes me look at cars completely differently. Like next time I hear an engine sound, I'm gonna be thinking about what's actually happening under the hood. How many cylinders, what layout, what's giving it that specific voice?
That's exactly the goal. Because once you understand the personality behind the engine, the car stops being just a car and starts being a character with a history and a reason for existing.
Cars have lore. Deep, fascinating, genuinely interesting lore.
Cars absolutely have lore, and we've only scratched the surface today.
Okay, so before we wrap up, if you made it this far, genuinely thank you. Like, this was a long one, and we appreciate you sticking around for the whole thing.
Seriously. This episode covered a lot of ground, and the fact that you're still here means a lot to the channel. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, leave a comment telling us which engine layout is your favorite and why.
I want to know how many Rotary defenders are in the comments. Show yourselves.
And share this with someone who loves cars, is curious about them, or just needs something genuinely interesting to listen to. Every like, every share, every comment helps the channel grow and helps us keep making these deep dives.
Yeah, our boss really appreciates it. And so do we. Like, genuinely, this stuff takes work, and knowing people actually watch it and enjoy it makes it worth it.
And if there's a topic you want us to cover next, drop it in the comments. We read them. We take notes.
We absolutely take notes. John has a whole spreadsheet.
I have a spreadsheet. It's very organized.
It's the most John thing ever.
Guilty. All right, that's everything for today's episode. Every major engine layout from inline 3 to W16, personalities and all.
From the scrappy little 3-cylinder all the way to Bugatti's absolutely unhinged 16-cylinder monster. What a journey, honestly.
What a journey. Thank you for riding along with us.
And with that, we both thank you for watching and hope you have an absolutely awesome day.
Take care, everyone. See you in the next one.
奥深く響くメロディー君と過ごした